Mobile processing. Is it worth having someone come to your yard and processing your firewood? On the flip side, is it worth setting up a mobile processing business and going to process other people's firewood? In this video, I'm going to break down exactly what we do when we go to site, what to expect from your mobile processing contractors, also what's involved in setting up a mobile processing business. Let's get started. Welcome back to the Log Burners Lounge. So the first section I want to talk about is having a contractor come to your yard to process your firewood. There's pros, there's cons, there's a lot that you need to know. So I want to start with a load of the pros of having someone come down. So the first thing is they might have machinery that you cannot afford or your business isn't ready for. Okay, so it's very easy when you're going out to open days, shopping around, and when you're processing to think, I need that big kit, I need that to get me to the next level. But wouldn't it be better if you could test it first? So for example, when I was setting up, I had a axe and a log splitter, right? Well, before that I even just had an axe, right? I used to log up all the arctics and then I used to, split it all by hand and then on a splitter, and then eventually I got myself a small processor. There was a big gap between actually getting the small processor and moving on from the splitter. Now the reason being is because I kept saying to myself, is it worth it? I'm doing really well as it is. Should I outlay the cost, etc. Fast forward a little bit, I then brought a big processor, which again was a good gap. There is a train going past. So basically what I'm saying is, back then when I was starting out, I didn't know many people were doing mobile processing. In fact, still to this day, there isn't as many professionals doing it. And if I knew back then, I could at least said, right, I've just had a big machine in. This is what it's got done in a day. Can I supply that with timber to keep it busy all year round? You kind of get the know-how, how to operate and what to expect, okay? Having a pro in with a machine can also teach you things that you may never have knew if you're just starting out, for example, with a processor, about maintenance, about what to expect, how to operate. Yard setup. Is your yard big enough for instance? Having people down to process your timber before you purchase another machine or a bigger machine or whatever is a great way to slowly progress forward, right? Another pro would be, let's say, I don't know, time's money and you've been splitting with a splitter and an axe or a very basic processor and you've got a lot of timber sat in your yard. You may be a bit busy yourself, it might be a side earner, it might not be. Having someone in for one day, for example, if you have us in, we average on 25 tonne a day depending on the grade of timber. So if bigger diameters and if it's not twisting stuff, we can get more done depending on log length as well. And what we find is that when we have done a day or two, people will then ask us, wow, that's great. Where did you get it from? That should save me a load of time. Thank you very much. The good thing about that is, for a lot of our clients, they haven't actually got the time. So let's say 20%, 30% of our clients are farmers. A lot of farmers sell firewood at the end of a season, right? When they're not as busy on the yard, they will go out selling firewood, whether it's for beer money or whether it's as as a side business. They haven't got time in the drier months because of harvest and stuff to basically take time out to process firewood. Having us in at a cost, they know exactly what that timber's cost. They know exactly how much it's cost to process. They've had no maintenance, no downtime. Whenever it's planned to go in, it's going to happen, and they've got all that timber sat there ready for the end of the year. That is another pro. You haven't got to worry about anything other than making sure the chap turns up. That is it. Moving forward again, I'd say a further pro is that you've got someone with experience in your yard, okay? So we've talked about time, we've talked a little bit about developing, up through the stages and, learning whether the machine's any good for you or not. But what about expertise? So when you've got a professional in, if you ask them nicely, they can tell you where they're going wrong, where you're not. And what you'll find is, I know I speak from my experience and what I talk to all of you about, I've been to a hell of a lot of yards to process. I've also been in a hell of a lot of yards to film, right? I see ideas that I've never thought of. I see contraptions that I never would imagine to be built and be profitable. I've seen everything, right? Well, not everything yet, but I've seen a lot. So what I'm saying is, there is a lot to be learned by having someone in who travels around, processes timber every day of the week. That's what we do. 20 something weeks of the year we'll be out with, let's say, the uni forest or the split to 400, and the rest of the year we'll be processing our own timber. Obviously we have our odd maintenance days and stacking days and reorganising days, don't get me wrong, but we are constantly processing all the time. How many of you, as a viewer now, can say most of the year I'm processing? Because I know a lot of people who purchase these big machines and they're not processing because they can't supply it with timber, or they don't need to because they've got enough stock for the year. Is that machine costing you money just being sat there? I don't know, that's something for you to work out. But what I will say is, if you're going to invest in a machine, there's price brackets, right? Let's say you got 10 grand below, 10 grand above, brand new machines, all the way up to 200, 300, 400 grand, whatever you decide. You've got to keep that machine busy. What you have got to determine is, if you can't keep a machine busy, or you don't need as much stock to have your own processor, it is, I believe, cheaper to get someone in to process your timber, because you've got, again, no downtime, it's all done, you know your costs, and guess what? Less work for you. The downsides of mobile processing: one, at the end of it, you don't own a machine. There's not really much of an investment there, let's just say. So is it worth it? Is it not? That's up to you to make. If that's your goal, to own machines, you can either do it one or two ways: buy the machine and let it pay for itself by you operating it, or you can use the profits you make from the mobile processing, coming in and selling out your timber, to then buy a machine. So there's two ways you can do that, but I know a lot of people sit on the fence between mobile processing and buying their own machine. The other con is, there's a lot of people out there who, I want to say, do a bit of everything, right? Like a jack of all trades. I'm probably one of them, but I'm an expert when it comes to this sort of thing. I know loads about timber, I know loads about processing firewood, logs, quality, etc. And that's something I pride myself on, because I go so deep into things, and I research things, and I travel around visiting you all, and visiting yards in the industry, and I work hard to do so. On the flip side is, there are people out there who may be a tree surgeon by day, a landscaper by night, but then also contract themselves out with a machine, okay? For me, and from what I've seen and from feedback I've heard from other people, some of the people out there who do that don't get the product right. So the big thing is about mobile processing, and this sort of ties into the next section: if you're going to do it, you've got to treat the product like it's your own. If you treat it like it's your own, then you're providing a good service, a good product, and you're getting happy customers. Another con would be availability. Not everyone does mobile processing. There isn't like thousands and thousands and thousands of people across the UK who do, whereas firewood, there's quite a few people who process firewood for themselves. So one thing that you want to bear in mind is that it can be area dependent. There are people who will travel. I travel quite far, to be honest, compared to other mobile processing contractors. But you may be paying for someone to travel a little bit. Is it cost effective? Is it cheap for you to process? I don't know. You'll have to have a look at your margins for that. But overall, there are benefits and there are cons to mobile processing, right? One of the big benefits that I've always found for people, right, and my customers come to me and say, I wouldn't even say customers, say clients. My clients come to me and say, Joe, our machine's not capable of doing this, we've got a deadline. Or, Joe, our machine's not big enough to do this, that and the other, have you got a machine to do it? Being able to offer the services is the next step. So you may need, for example, I've got a client that we're starting tomorrow, which is Friday, Saturday and Sunday. We're going down to see him in Warwickshire. He needs 16-inch logs. His processor does not cut 16-inch logs, okay? And he's got a really, really, really good setup. He's got a fuel factory, but it's a very specific machine. So he's contracting us in to process his firewood for a specific product that he sells. That is a massive benefit. There is no point, unless you get one cheap, to buy a machine to do that, or unless you've got a good enough quantity of it going out. So again, there are pros and cons to everything. I say there are more pros than cons to mobile processing. Now, if we take a look at the Firewood side, and I'm Joe, the logman, and I'm here processing all our firewood like we have done every year. Have I got time to set up a mobile processing business? I used to think no. I used to be so run out of time and couldn't do anything, and everything was a rush. Once you start getting ahead of the curve and you realise you're getting more and more free time because you've got a better machine, or you've got a better setup around your yard, or you've got a system in place, then you get a lot of free time, and you've got to work out what you do with that free time. Do you diversify your product range? Yes, I do. You should as well. Do you, offer your services to someone else? Yes, we did. So to start off with a mobile processing company, you've got to make sure you've got time to service your clients. That is one thing. You cannot be juggling between your work and their work, because you are looking after someone's business, right? Some of the clients we have do not have their own equipment, and if I don't show up when I say I'm going to, or anything like that, it could throw their whole system off. They might not be able to find anyone else, or if something goes wrong, we have to basically make sure everything goes right. That is our job, okay? You're looking after someone else's business, so there is a massive responsibility in mobile processing. If you're thinking about starting, make sure you have time to go and do it. You have backup spares, repairs, etc., to be able to look after that machine and make sure you don't get downtime. You want that downtime, if anything goes wrong, to be an absolute minimum, okay? Moving forward now to the, let's say, the better part of this video. You're looking for some extra money, you've got some extra time, you've got a good machine. Should you start mobile processing? The answer is yes. To set up mobile processing, you need to work out, let's say, 2 to 3 main things. One, your setup. Are you going to go out with a splitter and a chainsaw? Are you going to go out with a big processor? And if so, are you going to power it? So when we first started, we didn't offer a power setup. So we didn't take a generator, we didn't take a tractor. We were literally just machine and log deck. That's it. We came with wedges and, dust cyclones and cleaners and stuff like that. But we didn't have any way of powering it. And the main reason was transport, okay? Are you going to invest in a lorry and go out as a one-man band to go and help people process the firewood? Or is there a few of you, maybe 2 people, 3 people, who can all go out with trucks and trailers with different various bits of kit on to one job? I've always found to be price competitive, to make it worth the client's time, etc. You want to be going out possibly with no more than 2 people, right? When I do, let's say, the Uniforest 4020 Premium and I go out, it's just 2 of us, okay? So for 2 of us, one of us will have, let's say, the generator and the processor, or the generator and the table, and the other one will have, let's say, just the processor or just the table. 2 vehicles going up stops us from having an Arctic lorry. An Arctic lorry is an additional cost to your business. You may need an Arctic lorry for delivering your firewood, but just for mobile processing, is it worth it, the setup? I don't know. It'll be good to get some advice on that if that's the sort of thing you're doing, but for me, it's not where I wanted my business to go. So transport's a big thing. That was a massive issue. So we do it with 2 trailers, a triaxle and a twin axle. For the log deck, we had to have a 16-foot trailer, and for the processor and generator, we have to have another 16-foot trailer. You've got the cost of the trailers as well. So that's another thing to bear in mind. So let's just say you've got everything set up, everything's going well, and you're heading out to your first job. What do you need to let your clients know? We always prep our clients. It's always good to speak to them first. Maybe if they're local enough, going to see what the yard is. Your first issue that you may run into, they haven't got anything to offload your machinery with. That is something that we run into quite a bit, but luckily enough, we run into it on the phone. You prep your client, you say, look, this is what you're going to expect. This is what we need from you. Is that something that we can make it work? Yes, shake hands, crack on. If not, we're not the sort of company that can help you at this point. I'm really sorry, we'd love to help you. A lot of small setups and a lot of smaller businesses do not have telehandlers. Some of them don't have tractors with big loaders on. Some of them, you know, don't even have a way of moving the bags. They use like Avant loaders, you know, like the small compact loaders. You cannot lift big machinery off with those. We've even tested it ourselves when we weren't mobile processing, just to make sure what the limitations are. Our Uniforest weighs, I think it's about 1.3 tonne. Our generator weighs again about another 1.3 tonne. Empty with a bit of diesel and it'll weigh a bit more. And then our table weighs about 900 kilos. So we know roughly the weights we need for the machine to be able to lift to get it off. So let's say the client's okay with that and they've got a telehandler, tractor, whatever to offload with. Brilliant. What are they going to power it with? Are you offering a power setup like us, or have they got to power it themselves? If they're going to power it themselves, you've got to make sure that if you're not dropping it into a pile on the floor, that they've got something to move the bags and the stacks around with. Let's just say you go to a setup and they've only got one tractor and you're using, let's say, the PTO to power your machine. What are they going to use to move bags, cages? And if they're in a pile, you need to be able to move that pile, because from what we get done in a day, the pile may get a little bit too big for the conveyor. I know we can wind it right up and swing it across and swing it the other way, but a full day of processing for, let's say, two operators, you will get a lot of wood done, if it is good wood, obviously. So that's another thing you need to bear in mind. And then I say the final major thing that you need to bear in mind is loading the timber deck. Again, I'm speaking about smaller setups. Smaller setups may not even have a digger, a telehandler to load, or a tractor to load, or the way they load it, it might not be efficient for you or them to load it. So let's say they've got the forks, they're lifting out the stack and the stack's going a bit messy and they're spending time rolling it back and trying to get it all sorted. That's either time off the machine or the deck's empty and you're waiting for them, okay? That's not really being very efficient. Now, if your client's okay with that and they understand that, that's great. But I like to make sure my clients get the most out of our processing. So let's put the smaller businesses to one side a bit and let's go to the bigger companies. So let's say medium-sized firewood companies to larger sized firewood companies. I've got experience in all three, small, medium and large, okay? Medium to large are, let's say, the better ones to work for in sense of setup, equipment and space, okay? The smaller ones are always better to work for the fact of you feel like you're doing a really, really good service. They may not have seen processes this big before, they may not have seen that amount of quantity come off this quick before, and they are also so grateful, they're not so busy, it's very flexible. When you get to the medium-sized businesses, they have an expectation, and larger ones especially. You've got to match that expectation, and I expect you as a fellow mobile processor to match those expectations. So match expectation would be, are you cracking on or are you dawdling around on your phone? Let's just keep it professional. Let's say you are brilliant on that machine and you know your machine and you're going to crack on. When you're working away and you're ploughing through the timber, you have got to produce that excellent product to match that medium to large size company's spec, okay? Small companies do have a spec, don't get me wrong, but I've been with a lot of medium to large companies who like a specific size, a specific shape, a specific expectation. Now you've got to be willing to go that extra mile to try and get that expectation. It's all well and good people saying, well, this is what I do and this is what I can do, and if it's no good, then we're not for them. It's always good trying to go that extra mile to do that, and you'll be expected to. They might hand you a log at the beginning and go, look, these are the sort of logs we want, please can you make sure they're like that. The next thing is time and availability. If they're running a firewood yard, and let's say they are a medium to large firewood business where they've got staff on, they've got people in that yard, they've got to make your time pay, okay? You've got to stand out to them thinking, well, was it worth having them in? You need them to say, yes, it was. So what I mean by that is you can't be in the way of other people. You can't be holding other people up. You've got to be working as a team. You've also got to be working within their time scale. So what we find is the medium to larger medium companies will usually get a start to middle of the year. The larger companies and the top end of the medium companies will get us in towards the end of the year. Now we start getting busy at the end of the year, and you get loads of phone calls of people going, oh wow, we've had early sales in and we're getting short on timber. We need to get things in the kiln. We need to get wood processed to send off to a drying floor. We need to get wood in crates ready to dry for January, February. You are expected to, you know, for repeat clients, they're expecting you to pick up the phone, right, and say, hello, I'm available next week. Now, I know it doesn't always work like that. You might have someone booked in, but they're expecting that sort of level of customer service and reliability. That is the key to this. Being reliable and being able to help run someone's business is the key to all mobile processing. So make sure you get that in the bag, okay? That is what I'd 100% recommend you do. Setup, reliability and customer service, and then finally, how to deal with issues. So the issues are a big part. Are you on their job? Have you just started and you're halfway through the first day? You might be there for 3-4 days, and has your machine just broken down? Is a belt gone? Is a blade gone? It could be anything, right? You're expected to carry parts in your vehicle or in the back, a lot of ours stored in the back of the processor, to keep that downtime to a minimum. Because if they've taken days off to help you, to give you yard space, to change the whole plans around, then they're going to need you there working. Because if you say, look, I'm down for a week because, I don't know, I've got to wait for a part to be delivered, a really simple part as well, maybe something so common as, I don't know, carrying a spare blade or carrying spare belts or whatever, that downtime isn't what they're looking for, and it might throw out the rest of their weeks, okay? Things that major happen, a lot of people are okay with that. You can't help some of the breakdowns, but some of the small ones, you're expected to be able to fix on site, or at least fix within a very short period of time to stop that disruption. Whilst we're on the topic of wear and tear and things breaking down on site, let's talk about machine maintenance. Your machine is going to require so much more maintenance than it would if it was just sat in your yard processing what you have. The more you use a machine, the more maintenance it's going to require. So that you have got an added cost into that you will have to price in. You've also got to bear in mind that when you schedule your maintenance and your regular checks, you're going to be adding more wear onto your vehicles because you're traveling a lot. And when you're doing your day's work, you've also got to decide how many hours you do. So mobile processing, whilst running your own firewood business, it can be taxing on the body, taxing on the equipment, and taxing on your vehicles, right? And on your life. So here's a couple of things to bear in mind that I didn't really understand that first, but you quickly learn. Let's say you decide to do 8 hours a day, and you communicate with that customer and you say, look, I would like to do 2 20-minute breaks, 3 20-minute breaks in the day. That's great, happy days. But then you've always got to factor in your travel time to the site. So for example, some of the places we go, I have to set out at 4:30 in the morning. I have to come and load up and go quickly. So the trailers are loaded, but I still need to hook up and go. And then you've got to do your day's work there, offload, do the day's work, and then you'll pack up and then come home. Are you leaving your equipment there? We tend not to, but if someone did decide to leave their equipment there, let's say it's secure, you trust them, yeah, you save a bit of time, but you're still not getting home till late in the evening, ready to do it all again the next day. There's a lot of time involved in mobile processing. To also add to that time, you at the end then have to clean their yard. Once you set something up, it's an absolute sin, and it's one of the worst things you can do to not clean up after yourself. So you need to keep the yard spick and span, and you don't have to, you know, you can't go leaving all the sawdust everywhere. You can't go leaving bits and bobs everywhere. You need to make sure everything is clean as you found it. Another thing to bear in mind is when you're processing timber, they might not have it graded. They may do things different to you. You can advise them, but if they choose to do it their own way, then you have to follow their way. One thing I would always recommend is, if you do have some ungraded or some twisted timber or something that's an issue, work on it as you go through. I see people make the mistake of leaving all the twisted timber to the end. Don't do that. If you have a bit of twisty on there, don't chuck it off. Just go through it as you go and you'll find yourself working out a lot better and production's a lot better, and it's not so much of a dreaded thing at the end of the day. Keep processing, keep everything tidy, and I'm sure everything will go to plan. When you're looking at investment as well, you've got to invest in a good machine. You don't want a cheap type machine. You want a good quality machine that you know will work. You want to look at the company you're buying it from. Can you get the parts for it? So for us, we use Firewood because we know they stock a vast stock of parts. They're a reputable company, and if worst case scenario and I cannot fix the issue, they will come down to us and help us out. That is the key to everything, a good machine, a well-kept machine. To finish off, I'm going to tell you exactly how we do it and what we do. So currently we have two machines that we go out contracting with. We have the Uniforest 4020 Premium, and we have the Splitter 400 with a power pack. Our Uniforest 4020 Premium goes out with the generator and a log deck, and obviously with the Splitter 400 goes out with the conveyor, power pack, and the actual machine itself. We do have added on extras, so we can, you know, chuck in, I don't know, a dust extraction unit. We have got a Uniforest log grab, as long as they've got the right headstock. So that's basically our setup. We advertise that we go out with one person. So one operator. However, we actually go out with two. So part of my job is filming, right? To bring you content and do the bits and bobs we do. So what they end up getting is two operators for the price of one, because I cannot let YouTube affect our day-to-day business, as business always comes first, and me helping you out obviously will come close second. So on the back of that, we will, let's say, phone rings, new client, what services do you offer? This is what we're after. We want a load of timber processing. What can you do for us? Prep your client. That's the main thing. Okay, what you're expecting from us. What sizes do you need? What timber do you have? And what gear do you have to offload? Well, what we have is we have a tractor. We need it for moving around. So you need to be self-powered. We need 10-inch logs at this diameter. Our timber is, I don't know, anywhere from 6 to 14 inch. Right, we can help you. This is our cost per day. This is our setup. We do 8 hours on site. We'll get to you for 7 in the morning, 6:30 in the morning, whatever. And we will stay for the 8 hours, clean up and go from site. Is that okay with you? Yes, great, all done. We don't really allow haggling, we don't do that. We may do a deal for anyone who wants long-term processing, but that's a separate thing there. Right, so night before or 2 days before, check all your machinery. Make sure it works, check oil levels, check all maintenance, have a good quick look around it, double check you got all stock of any spare parts you may or may not need, your most common consumables. Make sure your chainsaw's sharp, make sure you've got chain oil, because you will need a chainsaw at some point, whether it's a twisty log or you got to do a bit of logging and put it in the splitting chamber, whatever. If you're using a Splitter 400, you've got to determine whether you're going to log on site and split, or if you're going to tell them it's just for splitting. If you are using a Splitter 400 though, and you are asking your client to split, to log, sorry, make sure you tell them the sizes that machine can take. Ask them, are they good with a chainsaw? Because what you tend to find is if they log up loads of timber, they get someone in or one of them has to log up and they don't log it up right, you'll get to site and none of the timber will fit, or some of it will fit and some of it will catch. It is a nightmare. So make sure you're managing expectations. Okay, so night before, you check through your stuff, make sure everything's loaded, everything's all packed up, ready to go and secure. You check your load, you've checked everything. Go home, go bed, have a nice day night, 'cause you've got a hard day's work tomorrow. Then what we tend to do, we wake up, maybe have some breakfast, probably not for me, I don't really do breakfast, but we'll communicate between me and whoever else is coming with me to go and do this processing. We're setting out, we get to site. At site, we don't like all the chit chat. You're not paying us to chit chat. What we want to do is say hello, where would you like us, how do we get set up? They will either help you offload, or they say, there's the machinery, do you feel comfortable offloading? Yes, we do. Can you show us how to use it? But 9 out of 10, you should know usually. Most machines operate the same. You'll offload, set up. At the point of setup, I usually literally take 2 seconds, have a quick cup of coffee, and I mean a quick cup of coffee, let the machine warm up. That's a big part with, you know, most machines you use. You want to give it 10 minutes for the hydraulic oil to start up. Whilst you're having that coffee, what I'd always recommend to do is quickly, you know, get your saw out, get everything prepped in, all in position, and then either get someone to start loading, or the client may be loading for you. As you're going along, stay in communication. Communicate to your second operator, or if it's just on your own, communicate to the person who's working with you on their side. Say, can you grade that timber? Say, can you put some small stuff to the back and keep everything the same size as the front? Communicate to get the best result possible. Once you've got the best result and you've done your day, ask that client, is there anything else you need? Is there anything else I could do for you? And they might say yes, they might say no, right? So that's the main, let's say, gist of the day. Once you're done, you might be back the next day, you might be leaving your kit there. We tend to take ours back with us, and then you have to start it all over again. You might have a couple of days there, you might not. One thing to do, and one thing I always do, if you do wholesale firewood and you have had extra time and you've got a lot of stock there and you do decide to go down the wholesale route, one of the things we do is create a network within our company. That is one thing that's always good to do. Network with other firewood producers, because they might pass on your details to someone else. So how we sell ourselves is, this is what we do, this is what we offer. We offer wholesale here and mobile processing there. Let's say you have some mobile processing, they don't know whether to get another stock in, get you in. Say to them, it doesn't matter if you don't have any more stock, because if you run out, you can rely on us to provide you with some wholesale firewood. I always do that. I always say, look, if you get stuck, or you don't think you got enough, give us a call, let us know a bit early, and we'll try and get you some in, or we'll try and squeeze you in another day for, you know, a bit more processing. That is always what we do, and we have a cut-off point of about end of October, start of November, where we stop mobile processing. We might do the odd regular client if they get stuck, but we usually have a cut-off point, because at that point there, we will get busy with our own sales of firewood. We already have people out on the road, and then the demand really comes in as you're getting up to the Christmas run. So with that in mind, let me know, are you going to start up your own mobile processing business? Will you have someone come to the yard, or have you had someone come to the yard? Give them a shout out, let me know who's about, let me know who's doing what. It's always great to hear from you. So that is it for this video, and I thank you very much for watching and being here. We are really working hard to build this community. I'm meeting and speaking to so many of you. It's absolutely great to see where we're at. I'm introducing people left, right and centre to try and help each other out. This is going to be one of the biggest and best firewood communities ever. So that's the target I've got. So drop me a message, drop in the comments, and I'll see you on our weekly Saturday live, where we all try and communicate with one another. Thank you very much again for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.